Am I the butthole for walking out after a boss tried to refuse to accept my resignation? I had a boss who was a real turd. He labored under the delusion he was an excellent boss and couldn't put together that his behavior and the crappy pay was why he had such a hard time keeping employees. He also thought it was acceptable to call his female employees hun, sweetie, and sugar. He was a condescending asswipe who consistently passed over more qualified women for promotions in favor of promoting less qualified men. I had to stay until I could find a better job because I enjoy eating, and couldn't afford to leave unless I had something else. I got an interview with a competitor who hired me on making more than I made with him. I turned in my 2 weeks and he said, "Oh sweetie, you know you can't leave." I said, "I absolutely am leaving." He got the smuggest look on his face and said, "Well, I'm not accepting this, sugar. Guess you're here to stay." I got so furious and decided that was it. I said, "Well, screw this then." I quit. Effective immediately. Called my new job, explained what happened in front of him as he sat there slack-jawed and agreed start the next day. I packed my stuff and left. A former coworker said it was an butthole thing for me to just up and quit on the spot, but if he refused to accept the resignation he could easily have tried to screw me over when my last day did come. My new boss says he deserved it and I'm not the butthole for quitting like I did. My boyfriend says he can see how other employees might feel like I was an butthole by making them cover my absence, but sees how I'm not the butthole for walking out of that toxic environment. So just because I'm curious, I thought I'd ask here. AITA? NTA. 2 weeks' notice is a courtesy that your former boss did not deserve. And that her former boss declined. Factual, she gave 2 weeks, the 2 weeks were declined, so then it was zero notice. Not the butthole. My question is, why was there no harassment lawsuit? Pretty sure using such words as sweetie is now grounds for one? Because for most women, it's easier just to find a new job than to find a lawyer and go through the process of a lawsuit. Amen. Bingo. You need a lot of support and deep pockets. So a lot of jobs that pay/treat women like crap have no incentive to change. That's one of the good reasons for unions. There's a real problem with workplace harassment in way more categories than just that. Anytime something happens that might jeopardize a company's reputation, their immediate instinctive reaction is always, how can we hide this? People in higher up positions often feel empowered to just bully people and often commit outright sexual harassment or assault, because they know they won't get punished. The company will just bury it. It's sickening. Literally this. I'd rather look for another job in GTFO instead of trying to convince HR and whoever else that my boss, who's been there way longer, is a pig. I literally know a woman who had to deal with enough harassment in a job with written evidence and witnesses that I found a lawyer willing to take the case on contingency. She chose not to sue. I respect her choice, but damn, I wish she said yes. Not to mention lawyers are expensive and he wasn't paying her properly. Dude, actual serial rapists usually get a lawsuit 30 years down the line, with all the raped women brave enough to come out about it, dragged through the mud along the entire way. You have to be living in Never Never Land to think that you can get a man for a harassment lawsuit for sweetie. Yeah, just saw that 2 Amish men didn't get jail time for raping and impregnating their 13-year-old sister because jail would be too hard on them. They should disbar that prosecutor. I made the decision not to send them to the Department of Corrections to suspend the sentences, explained Bergstresser. These 2 young men would have been eaten alive in the state prison system. Your justification to not put 2 admitted child rapists on prison is that the punishment would be too hard on them? The punishment is supposed to be hard, it's why it is called punishment. Web link. They would be eaten alive, they effing should be. I brought my fork. Gross, don't eat junk food. Don't put that in your mouth, you don't know where it's been. Unfortunately, we know exactly where they've been. And the rape was happening since she was about 10. They got 100 community hours and had to apologize to their town. There are no words. Enough internet for me today. And the 2 younger brothers who also assaulted her got nothing. Exactly. It's a long-ass process and sometimes only some of the people harassed actually get a payout. If that was the case, I wouldn't have felt my skin crawl reading those lines because I have experienced the same crap. It's absolutely disgusting that men can get away with obvious harassment. But they do. Daily. Yep. Original post tried to be professional, but her boss wasn't having it. God, I'm not going to miss dip craps. I retire Friday. Well, now you're ta. Mostly because I'm jealous. Congrats. Don't go on any house calls. It's the days before retirement when the horror movies get you. Noah? Is that you? Congratulations on retirement. Not the butthole slavery was abolished 155 years ago. As a free person, you are allowed to withdraw your labor whenever you want. Yeah, you're basically never the butthole for quitting a job. Notice is nice to do, if they've been decent to you, but otherwise it's typically not required. Obviously, check local laws. You never owe your job anything more than the work you were hired to do. If you resign or quit, end of transaction. You owe them nothing more. At will employment works both ways. They can let you go with no warning, and you can just up and leave, too. Yes, and worth noting that 2 weeks' notice is just a courtesy. Regardless of whether boss was in butthole or not, it's by no means a requirement. Think of it like this: do you want to use this person as a reference? Would you consider coming back to work for this employer again in the future? 2 weeks' notice. Otherwise, F 'em. Quit when you want. He is absolutely reaping what he sowed. NTA. The way your former boss responded to your giving notice made my skin crawl. You were right not to accept his condescension and harassment. Go enjoy your new, better job. Is there an HR department at your old job? I'd report his behavior in a heartbeat. Sounds to me like boss at the old job is the owner. That's been my experience with this sort of thing. HR protects the company, not the employees. Since original post quit, there's nothing here for them to do other than warn the boss not to be a dick next time, but it probably won't do anything because they'll likely half-ass it. They protect the company, sure, but they protect them from lawsuits. The manager would be fired very quickly because he's a walking lawsuit. Doesn't always happen, sometimes they protect the offender in question. It's backwards maybe, but it happens. Do you work for a private company or a public one? This crap would not fly at a public company. If your private company is any good, you'd want to inform HR as well. HR can't do anything if one person reports because it's a he said she said. If they get multiple reports, they'll fire him on the spot or first chance they get. It does fly at a public company. What world are you living in? The manager would be fired very quickly because he's a walking lawsuit. To be honest, I doubt it. But in an ideal world, managers are not the company, only upper management might count. You're right that they protect the company, and a manager that treats all female employees like that is a huge liability. Exactly, I felt dirty only reading that. Original post is not the butthole for not wanting to spend another second on the boss's presence. Seriously. It sounded like rapey AF. Who is this dude? Ariel Castro? NTA. He can't refuse your resignation. Apparently he can refuse it, he just can't stop her from leaving anyway. I mean, he can say he's not accepting it, but he legally must. Even if she was facing a possible disciplinary dismissal, she can resign first and there isn't dick he can do about it. Exactly. That was the joke I was trying to make. Exactly. This is one of the rarer times that at will employment works in favor of the employee. In theory, it is supposed to be equal, as each side can fire/quit the other at any time, but we all know that there is a pretty big power imbalance here. NTA, that's not just disrespectful on his part, that's also sexual harassment. Then him telling you since he won't accept it you can't leave, is horribly creepy as well. NTA. Resigning is not asking permission to leave, it's letting them know that you're leaving and what day you will stop turning up. Barring the military and certain other rare exceptions, you can walk out any time you want, whether he chooses to accept it or not. The only time I knew of a boss refusing a resignation was a place I worked with a teenage son of a woman who had worked there for years, and had got him a temporary job over Christmas, was caught stealing. She handed in her resignation the next day and the boss told her he wasn't accepting it. No one blamed her or thought any less of her, it was just a stupid teenage thing. She stayed, and happily stayed for years after. There are very little exceptions to this. Contracts would be one. Even then the recourse is civil. Even a binding exclusivity of employment contract can only be enforced by damages or restraint. I can't force you to perform work for me, as it breaches anti-slavery laws. Should be true in all common law countries. Unsure of others. Even then courts usually award damages and almost never issue orders to compel performance. At my last job I worked at an insanely toxic veterinary practice. I was horrified to tell my boss I was putting in my 2-week notice, because my boss was notorious for getting so upset by 2-week notices that 9 out of 10 times she'd just make the person leave on the spot. When I finally got the balls to tell her, she straight up answered him, "Okay. Well, I might actually need you for 3 weeks." Which I ignored because F no. And then the next week she proceeded to tell me how much I hurt her feelings by only giving her a 2-week notice when I'd been working there for 3 years. She was a psycho. I assume she only reacted this way towards me because I worked all the shifts nobody else wanted, I did all the tedious cleaning that nobody else wanted to do, plus I was quiet and stayed out of her way. She was probably just upset she couldn't abuse me for $12 an hour anymore. Second, this. Resigning is not asking for permission. NTA. You did what you were supposed to do. You gave him notice and he refused to accept it. Were you supposed to continue working there because he said you couldn't quit? Everyone who is saying AITA is delusional. Congrats on your new position. Everyone who is saying AITA is delusional. Not a single person in this thread, or do you mean her old co-workers? Oh, sorry for the confusion. Yes, her old co-workers are delusional. They're probably just salty because they have to cover for her on the spot. It's still petty to hold it against her though. And the response to the co-workers is, I gave 2 weeks and boss wouldn't accept. If you're upset, look at boss honey over there. Not the butthole. I've been working for 20+ years in a corporate type job. 2 week is a courtesy that we as employees give to our employer. Make no mistake, many employers can give us exactly 0 notice when they separate us from the company. You are not beholden to treat them better than they treat you. Since this person didn't treat you that well, you are 100% in the right. Congratulations on the new position. I've been working for 20+ years in a corporate type job. 2 week is a courtesy that we as employees give to our employer. Make no mistake, many employers can give us exactly 0 notice when they separate us from the company. Yeah. I've given as much as 6 weeks notice to a good boss, and 7 weeks notice to my good intern, who used the week to polish her resume and have it on the boss's desk as soon as the boss knew I was quitting. Good bosses who've shown me courtesy deserve appropriate notice so that they can find a replacement and continue to run a smooth department. Bad bosses deserve no notice at all. NTA. The blame for this situation falls squarely on your boss. If he had responded in a reasonable manner, the company would have gotten the 2 weeks that are typically given as a courtesy. Not the butthole. You tried to quit nicely, he was a dick so you left. You had every right. Your former co-workers might have paid for it by having to pick up your load and may have got the brunt of his ire, but that's not on you. You're 100% not the butthole. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.